This phenomenal love story takes place in Mopungchuket, in our village, and to begin, let us have a look at our main characters for the act. First, we have our male lead, Jina. He was a man of short height who came from a poor family. Nevertheless, he was a brave and strong warrior who wielded a sword, the Nagadao, that was very sharp that nobody could compete with it. He also showed exceptional talent in playing the cup violin, also known as the kotakonki. Next, we have our beautiful female lead, Etiben. She was a woman of wits, beauty, and charm who came from a very wealthy family. She loved to sing, and her family had many servants working for them. So that was the brief introduction of our main characters. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin. One day, as Etiben was walking around, she discovered that the prettiest one among her maid servants had fallen in love with the unattractive Jina. Etiben could not understand why someone as pretty as her would fall for someone like him, and she mocked them. Her maid felt offended and challenged that Etiben can also fall for someone like him, but Etiben strongly disagreed. In order to prove her point, the maid devised a plan with Jina to make a love potion. After making the love potion, she handed it over to Jina and instructed him to smear it on one side of his dao on the day they would carry out the plan. The day soon arrived. One sunny afternoon, Etiben and her maid were returning from their day's work from the fields, and on reaching home, Jina came to greet them. Jina takes out his dao, and he cuts a cucumber into two. Then he carefully offers the sliced one with the love potion to Etiben, and the one without to the maid. Now the potion soon takes effect as Etiben yawned, and she opens her lips to sing songs of love to Jina.
Even if it's a broken house with boulders from our neighbor falling on it, and even if the rain downpours on our poor house, darling, I would still want to live with you.
Moved by her singing, Jina replies,
Though I go without consuming food or alcohol, it feels as if I just ate gooseberry and drank water from the river every time I speak with you, lady.
And so, from that day, their love began. It was around this time that Etiben had many suitors who came to ask for her hand in marriage. There were suitors that were lined up in the morung, and at the end of the line stood Jina. As per the old customs, Etiben carried her basket, and she walked past the suitors one after another. Each of them tried their best to put their shawl into her basket, but she never gave them a chance. But as Jina's turn came, she slowed down and made it easy for him to put the shawl inside her basket. Thus all the other suitors were rejected, and Jina was the chosen one. Despite all the differences that they shared, mainly their financial differences, and although they both knew that their love would not be approved by Etiben's parents, their love continued to grow. They would secretly meet in Longkum, which is 18 kilometers away from their village, and there, Jina would play his cup violin and Etiben would sing along. And eventually, their meetings were soon discovered by Etiben's parents, and they were clearly very displeased with Jina. They saw him as someone who would not be able to provide a comfortable life for their daughter. Unable to accept their disapproval, Jina and Etiben eloped to a place called Mokokchung and stayed on a hilltop. However, things were not in their favor, and Etiben fell seriously sick, and so Jina took her back home. And it was during this time that Tenure, the wealthy and eligible bachelor, came to meet her parents. And here, Etiben's parents presented their demand. Whoever is first to bring the dowry of cattle within the stipulated time shall have Etiben as wife. This condition and demand gave Tenure the upper hand, while Jina was at a disadvantage. On hearing this, Etiben rushes over to Jina to inform him about this matter. Knowing that it was not in his ability to do so, she takes off her precious necklace and hands it over to him so he could pay the dowry. And in no time, Tenure came along with the dowry, and he was feeling all proud and mighty. This greatly pleased Etiben's parents, and it left them with the impression that he was the right match for their daughter. And so without any hesitation, they gave Etiben to be his wife. However, her heart pined for Jina, and helplessly without a chance to speak her mind, she was forced to marry Tenure. Her opinion did not matter. The dowry had already been accepted. And moments later, Jina finally manages to bring the dowry to her parents, but Etiben was long gone and it was too late. Contradictory to the kind of life her parents expected her to live, Etiben lived miserably, a loveless life without compassion. Tenure had no regard and respect whatsoever unto her. She suffered physical abuse and ill treatment from her husband. And this went on, and Etiben could not take it any longer. Her only solace was in Jina. So she started sneaking out of the house to meet Jina in the fields. Now this became very frequent until one day, the rumor of her secret meetings with Jina reached the ears of Tenure. He goes out to find her and calls her, Etiben, Etiben. And shocked, Etiben quickly tells Jina to go and hide. When the two met, Tenure started questioning her and his suspicions grew, but Etiben denied all accusations made against her. In a fit of rage and jealousy, Tenure strikes her and starts beating her mercilessly. The hands that should caress her and hold her became the very hands that struck her and threw her to the ground, until she could move no more. Her crippled body lay there on the ground, only to be found by her lover Jina, who took her home.
My friend's crying, PK is crying here. And let's see her face, but she's crying.
Etiben's condition did not improve, and it worsened day by day. Although her parents did their best, they could not nurse her back to health, and shortly after, she passed away. Was her life worth the dowry payment? Did that guarantee her a life full of love? No, it did not. And when this tragic news came to Jina, he was overcome with grief. He mourned tremendously and went on without eating, drinking, or sleeping. This took a toll on his body, and his grief was so great that he too soon passed away. The villagers, who knew of their inseparable love, sympathized them and cremated their bodies together. When smoke emerged from the fire, they saw the wisp, which formed shapes that resembled Jina and Etiben, and they appeared to be holding hands together while ascending to the sky. And thus, the two lovers were believed to be reunited in the afterlife. Now, the moral of the story is this. One's ability to create a loving home does not depend entirely on the dowry that he can pay. Thank you all.